Shalom, shalom. Got a lot to get to on this video. But this video, I'm going to get into two short videos. These two videos are going to prove two things. That the ancient biblical Israelites were not so-called white people. Secondly, that it's no such thing as so-called white people, like a so-called white race. Like it ain't no such thing as so-called black people. That's a lie that the so-called white men sold into the earth, right? But and it's going to tie into this lesson, but I'll get into two videos that's going to show you that the so-called white man, we're supposed to believe that they're supposed to be the ancient Israelites that built the pyramids, that were slaves in Egypt. And the third point, the so-called white man cannot handle adversity at all. So let's get into these two videos and I'm going to get into this lesson. Check this out.
Season at Cape Charles Beach, Virginia. It was a beach perfect day.
We went home that day a little pink, but had no real issues. It wasn't until the next morning when we saw Liam's face and how much damage had actually been done.
Liam's sweet face was covered with painful first and second degree burns.
At the 72-hour mark, his eyes were swollen shut. He had a lot of redness, large blisters that almost looked like holes. It actually looked like divots in his nose. I mean, it was really scary to see.
Jennifer thought she was doing everything right. A name brand sunscreen, banana boat for kids with SPF of 50 plus. She read the directions on the label, reapplying the lotion every 2 hours. So how did Liam get so badly burned? Dermatologist
All right, let me get into the second video. All right, check this out.
Guys, wake up! We've been asleep for 6 hours!
You have a wound on your chest! Oh, look at
Right there, it says at the top, that just looks painful. With severe, these devils will get very, if they're in the sun for an extended amount of time, they'll get second and third degree sunburn, which can lead to skin cancer. And another thing, it's very painful. You're almost incapacitated when you got severe sunburning on that level. So we're supposed to believe that these so-called white people built the pyramids when it's no shade, it's direct sun, beaming down day in and day out. It's impossible, man. Watch this.
How burned he is! Oh no! I got a dog on my arm! You got a mess!
Well, I'm gonna show you something.
Guys, wake up! We've been asleep for 6 hours!
You have a wound on your chest! Oh, look how burned he is!
Oh no! I got a dog on...
And you see that Edomite right there is red. That's why they're known as the red people, man, not so-called white people. All right.
Mom! You got a mask tan! Oh no! Oh, this is bad. Ow! Oh! I have a wedding tonight. Oh, this is bad.
All right, let's get into this lesson in 1 second. All right, I got a lot of information to get to. I'm gonna hit, Lord willing, everything, but I'm gonna have to kind of speed through this. Right here. And this how these devils think, this how they think in the inward parts. It's our greatest power over so-called blacks, which would be you Israelites, is that we control everything they believe, which these devils do, right? Our people have been severely brainwashed and indoctrinated. They don't know it though. It says we control their education. See, that's the essence of, the brainwashing and indoctrination. They start when when you're a kid, man, right? And they brainwash you because that's the most impressionable time that you can absorb in so much information. It says their news media, which news is all propaganda, right? Their entertainment, going into these shows and these Netflix, and you go down the list, man. It's all to put an illusion on you, man, and a lie and keep you in a dumbed down state. In their statistics, which that's a whole nother thing within itself, and even their image of themselves. So that's why they put these gangster movies out here, and they put these gangster rappers on a pedestal and push and promote them to you, all right, and show you them with all the so-called money, the good life, so our people can covet that and live that kind of life, aspire to live that kind of lifestyle, and destroy themselves. It said, thus, therefore, allows us to inundate so-called blacks with disinformation designed to instill the myth that white superiority and so-called black self-hatred into their minds. It's a psychological warfare, as I went into my last lesson. Get into that lesson. Watch it. It's a psychological warfare program used for protecting our so-called white dominance. And everything that was said right here is nothing but the truth. So let's get all into this lesson. First off, we're going to get into this right here. All right, so these will be the Israelites, the so-called, as they say, black Hebrew Israelites, which that's madness. Again, the so-called white man is trying to control the narrative. We are not black Hebrew Israelites. We Hebrew Israelites, not black. And them devils like to use that terminology so it can put our people into confusion and our people fall for the madness. I'm going to read this. It said, figure 1. It says, Lee Vantine, Asiatic. You see, they try not to say Israelites here because once they say Israelites, the gig is up. So they're going to keep going with this lie. It says making bricks. All right. So you see the skin complexion that our people is brown to dark flesh people, which that's how the ancient Israelites looked. All right. It says mud bricks versus stone construction. So our people were building treasure cities for Pharaoh. So let's get into this first scripture to prove that. All right. A lot to get to, man. All right. This is the book of Exodus 1. And let me jump down to 13, Salakia. It says, Exodus 1 and 13, and the Egyptians made the children of Israel. So the children of Israel is the actual seed line of Israel, right? The man. He had 12 sons that had kids, and they had kids. That's how we, so on and so forth. That's how we came into existence. It says the children of Israel to serve with rigor, 14. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick, as you saw in that picture, proving that we was doing the building in ancient Egypt and in all manner of service. So it just wasn't building the pyramids and building these treasure cities. It was all manner of service in the field, all their service, right? Wherein they made them serve with rigor, Salakia. So going back into this image, it's lining up to the scriptures and you see what they're doing, right? All right, let me show you another one. Let's go here. You see this one? And this is actually in a tomb that they discovered, right? So they got this straight off the walls of the tomb. And it's showing you that the Israelites, you see at the very top, it said Hebrews making mud bricks. Let's zoom in. You see what they doing, right? You see what complexion is. All right, right here. Look at this. And if you be in the sun, you're going to start to turn dark. So again, so-called white people cannot be in the sun working, on this level and they'll be incapacitated, man. All right. Their body will be in so much pain that they won't be able to work. All right. And if you stay in the sun for any extent of time, you're going to turn so-called black. But we have melanin in our skin that protects us from the sun. All right. And other things that's going on within the body. It said brick making in Egypt. It says painted on the walls of the Debian tomb in Rakamah, mid 15th century. It said who was the Egyptian vizier or prime minister. These realistic scenes depict slaves manufacturing mud bricks, as we just read in the scriptures, including all stages of brick making, bottom, left to right, fetching of the water, kneading of the clay, and carrying of the moistened clay to brick makers. Look at this, man. These don't look like so-called white people, man. And they go to show you that they movies going back into this right here. One of their movies, their propaganda movie, is the 10 Commandments that they play every satanic Easter, man. This movie. And you see how the people look. They're known as so-called white people. These are Edomites. That's their true biblical nationality. And if you're a so-called white person, you're going to learn today. All right. The lie, the gig is up. So how did they put this stuff together? Let's go here. This would be the true depiction of the ancient Persians. And you see to the right, it'd be the Hollywood Persia, so-called Persians, whitewash. This would be the ancient Babylonians. You see right here in the middle, so-called brown flesh people. And you see to the right, the Hollywood Babylon, whitewash. Right here, the ancient Egyptians. And these devils really even took it a step further and whitewashed the so-called Egyptians. All right. And it says Hollywood Egypt, so-called white man. That's why he's known as a devil. All right. Right here. So how did they able to put this stuff together? All right. Let's get into this. It says every single aspect of the media is so-called Jewish, but Jewish is just a term that they made up. The word Jewish is a term they made up. Jewish is something like. They did this so they can claim to be the so-called tribe of Judah, right? Which they're not. And you see they run all the media. They run all your television. So everything you really see on TV is a psychological warfare, which goes back into your movies, goes back into your literature. They control it all. And these Edomites, Amalek, from the seed of Edom, all right, because you had different, so-called tribes of Edom, all right, but this would be Amalek, all right, the top tribe of the nation of Edom that control your banking system and control pretty much the whole conglomerate of all this media, your television. Because if I'm not mistaken, I have to go back because I did a lesson on it. I think Paramount Studios funded the movie Ten Commandments. Matter of fact, I think I'll do that in the next lesson. One of my upcoming lessons to verify that. All right here. These are real artifacts, right? You see how people serving with rigor, right? This is inside of a tomb. So look, get the cat out the bag, man. And that's why you know as the devil, Satan, right? All right, more of it, right? And I showed you this right here before. It says there's like musicians in the Babylonian captivity. Let's get a close up on that picture. And you see, it says ancient Hebrews, right? And you can see the locks, so-called black man dominant features. There's no doubt about that, right? So let's go back here. This is another picture. This Israelites going into the exile of the Assyrian captivity. Them so-called black men. That's undeniable, man. Can't get out of that. Look at the texture of the hair. Look at how Jake, the so-called black man, wear braids and stuff like that, man. Right? Beards, right? Bushy hair. Going into the Assyrian captivity. Let me show you this too. These are so-called original Australian, so-called black men, right? The original so-called Asians, so-called black women and black men, the original people of Latin descent, so-called, right? These Israelites, right? You see them being dark flesh people, the original Filipinos. You'll never see this, man. These devils gonna hide all this from you. Slovakia, the original so-called Indians, Gad, Reuben, all the tribes of Israel, and the original people of India, which Israelites would be scattered through the whole four corners of the earth, not in just one particular place. The bulk of them would be in the Americas, but Israelites are scattered throughout the whole four corners of the earth, and some of them not going to look like how Israelites traditionally look. All right. See how time just flies by? Wow. But right here, it says the Europeans claiming to be Jews are nothing more than Hebrews speaking Gentiles. The late president of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, stated on television, "You, the Jews, was Jewish, would never be able to live here in peace because you left black but came back white. We cannot accept you, man." This was in 1952 during a speech. All right. But I think I'm going to run out of time yet again, so I'm going to have to do a part 3 on this, man. But you see what it is. All right. This is during the Assyrian captivity. You see them so-called black men. All right. See you on the next video. Shalom.